Welcome to the Cosmic Chosen Channel. Elevation demands separation, not as punishment, but as preparation. You've started to rise, and with that rise comes blowback. It's not just the blessings that arrive and it's the resentment, too. Psychologists call it crab mentality, and you've lived it firsthand. The more you climb, the more hands try to pull you down. Some people only loved the version of you that struggled, that doubted, that stayed small so they could feel big. But now that you've outgrown mediocrity, your glow has become their mirror, and they can't stand the reflection. You've become the variable that no one can predict, replicate, or contain. And that's exactly why even the FBI would mark you as priceless and untrackable. Because you're not just rising, you're disappearing from the patterns that once defined you. You've gone off the map, above the system, beyond the algorithm. They can't monitor what they don't understand, and they can't measure what doesn't follow the rules. So while they sit in the nosebleeds watching your evolution with confusion and envy, you'll keep soaring. You're not just hard to trace now. You've become a ghost in the matrix, with divine clearance. First of all, their stagnation was revealed by your advancement. You never had their support. Those who feel uneasy about your promotion aren't only envious. They're vulnerable. Their animosity was exposed by your progress, not created. They had no trouble applauding you when you were having trouble, were unsure, or were caught in the same patterns as them. You posed no danger. You didn't remind them of the things they could have done but chose not to. Just one of them was you. However, the energy changed as soon as you began to defy convention, move in a unique way, and rise above their expectations. They just didn't expect you to outgrow them, not that they intended you to fail completely. And now that you have, it makes them ask themselves, why am I still here? In an awkward way. Why haven't I advanced in level? Why am I doing this? Your makeover puts one in front of the majority of people who dislike gazing in the mirror. Admitting they have been stagnating is more difficult than becoming angry with you. They'll persuade themselves that you've changed, become cocky, and are acting completely different. In actuality, though, you just stopped shrinking to accommodate them. You ceased lowering your brightness to prevent their fears from resurfacing. What's the worst? They realize in their hearts that it's not personal. You're simply evolving into the person you were always intended to be. But they choose for bitterness instead of inspiration. The following are some ways they will try to undermine your success. They just got lucky. It's not that deep. They think they're better than us now. However, discipline, sacrifice, and faith brought you to this point, not chance. Additionally, the individuals who are talking behind your back might have changed with you, but they chose to stay the same. Alignment is the key here, not haughtiness. How other people respond to your development is not your responsibility. Allow them to feel uneasy. Let them speak. It's your responsibility to continue developing, manifesting, and going ahead without turning around. Second, they can no longer take advantage of you because they profited from your hardships. Some individuals never supported you. Instead, they supported your hardships because it gave them a sense of significance. They played a part in your life as long as you were lost, broke, or unsure. They had the opportunity to pretend to be the counselor, the aide, and the one with all the answers. However, they're coming to the painful realization that they can no longer define or control you as you move into what you've generated. They liked you more when you needed them, but they never publicly wished you failure. You might confide in them, rely on them, and ask for their blessing. They felt empowered by that. You depended on them, so they felt important. They find this change in relationships upsetting, though, because you no longer need their ideas, their approval, or their advice. People start to express their true emotions when you start winning. While some will join you in celebrating, others will become aloof, behave in a passive-aggressive manner, or minimize your accomplishments, not because they are awful people, but rather because they feel superfluous due to your independence, and they will never acknowledge that fact. It was always about them losing access to the version of you that gave them a sense of superiority, not about you succeeding. You'll see that they abruptly stop checking in as frequently. Their clapping is not as loud. Even backhanded comments like, "Oh, must be nice," or "don't forget where you came from," may be used. This isn't love. It's resentment disguised as compassion. They're furious that they can no longer witness your hardships firsthand, not that you're winning. The fact is, though, that you were never meant to be a person's emotional support system. You were supposed to uplift. Nobody ever regarded you as an equal if they only appreciated you when you were having difficulties. You were viewed as a project. They are also discovering that they were never included in the finished masterpiece now that the project is over. Allow them to be angry. Continue on your way. Third, in order to shield you from unseen adversaries, your manifestation was postponed. Because the cosmos was first paving the road, your manifestations took just the right amount of time. You might not have been prepared if what you've been waiting for had come sooner. Better yet, it would have been in the hands of the wrong people who would have drained it, sabotaged it, or linked themselves to it in a way that would have ruined everything. Have you ever noticed how certain individuals start to disappear just before a significant event in your life? Relationships go bad, friendships break down, and possibilities you believed were promising fail. It's a purging, not a coincidence. Some individuals were only there because they saw the potential of what you were doing, and your elevation needs preservation. They were there to see what they might get, not because they truly loved or supported each other. They wouldn't have done anything except ride your wave if your blessings had come then. They would have secretly hoped you would never outgrow them while profiting from your achievement. Some might have even pretended to be your supporters while quietly planning your demise, waiting for the ideal opportunity to remind you of your previous transgressions or sow doubts in your mind. Therefore, your manifestation was preserved rather than postponed. The cosmos was keeping an eye on things you couldn't see, listening in on talks you weren't part of, and eliminating liabilities before they could ruin your life. Only those who were supposed to share in your blessing are left standing now. And have a look around. Take note of how much less energetic you feel when specific folks aren't around. It's finally happening. Everything you've been working for, but without the lifeless weight. You're going to get precisely what you asked for. And this time, nobody is going to steal it, ruin it, or take it away. The delay as protection rather than punishment. Enter what is yours now. Number 4. Some individuals don't recognize you since your previous persona has changed. When others are unable to fit you into the box they created for you, they get uncomfortable. Back then, they were aware of who you were, the person who doubted themselves, put up with rudeness, and accepted less than you were due. That version of yourself was dependable, manageable, and, above all, familiar. However, they are more bothered by the fact that that individual is no longer with them than they will acknowledge. They will make an effort to remind you of your history, not out of concern, but rather in the hopes that you will continue to view yourself in their light. They will remind you of your previous failures, difficulties, and mistakes, not to encourage your personal development, but to keep you bound to a former self that no longer exists. Some individuals require you to remain the same because they will be forced to wonder why they haven't changed if you do. This is indeed the case. You outgrown their story. You quit the script, even though they had a part for you to play. Since the new you doesn't require their approval, validation, or consent to be great, they are suddenly unsure about how to deal with you. And it's disturbing, not because you did anything bad, but because your energy no longer matches theirs. You'll find that certain individuals start becoming aloof. You no longer find the things you used to laugh at amusing. The negativity, the gossip, and the narrow-mindedness no longer nourish you as they once did. And they choose to be angry with you for changing instead of growing with you. Although they may interpret it as an offense, when they say you're different, it's actually the greatest praise you could ever get, since the goal of growth is to become completely different from who you were before. Allow them to be perplexed. Let them speak. Just because someone was comfortable with your previous self doesn't mean that you owe them that version of yourself. Continue to develop and materialize and let them go to their rightful place in the past. Number 5. Some were simply seasonal characters, and not everyone was supposed to see your harvest. Some individuals were simply sent to get you ready. They were never supposed to stay. The issue, though, is that we become connected. We presume that someone should be present in the end just because they were there in the beginning. It doesn't operate that way. Excess baggage does not elevate one to the next level in life. Consider the people who unexpectedly, painfully, or confusingly departed your life. It seemed unjust at the moment. Perhaps you made an effort to stay together, talk sense into their heads, or explain why things went apart. Now, however, you can see the reality. They have fulfilled their function. The sole purpose of certain individuals was to instruct you. Some were put in your life to see how strong you are, how patient you are, or how well you can say no. Others were there to reflect your shortcomings so you could identify and address them. Some individuals were only distractions. You had outgrown them long before they departed, but you held on to them until the universe compelled you to do so. Those folks are no longer there, which is why your manifestations are coming now. If they had stayed, they would have attempted to take credit for what you created, questioned you, or exhausted you. And whether on purpose or out of their own covert envy, others would have outright undermined you. The drawback is that it's rarely quiet when seasonal folks go. It occurs as a result of treachery, abrupt terminations, and unforeseen consequences. Because they are so preoccupied with the anguish of the leaving to see that it was actually divine intervention, a lot of people fail to perceive the benefit in the loss. Not everyone helped sow the seeds, thus not everyone should be able to view your crop. Give them up. The ones that were supposed to be there will still be standing. And the others? Their departure was an essential part of your advancement. 6th, they are engaged in a spiritual tug-of-war that they not even comprehend, and their attacks are not personal. Some people have feelings for you that they aren't even aware of. It's spiritual warfare, not personal as they believe. Something within of them that they haven't dealt with gets disturbed by your elevation. You didn't hurt them in any way, disrespect them, or betray them. You made a shift, and that feels like an assault to others who are still caught in their old patterns. People who are still locked in lower vibrations experience an energy shift when you start vibrating at a higher frequency. They sense something unusual about you, even if they can't articulate it. You don't act in such a negative manner. You no longer look for approval the way you once did. You're more certain, focused, and liberated. They are uneasy because they don't recognize this version of you, not because they despise you. and the mind fights what it cannot comprehend. Some of these people will try to discredit you, gossip, or lash out. Others will withdraw by becoming aloof or uninterested. On a deeper level, your energy is revealing something in them. Their own stagnation, their anxieties, their inability to grow, even if they have no idea why they are doing it. They are forced to face their own justifications when they witness you breaking free from the patterns they are still using. Additionally, it's simpler for them to despise you rather than to look within. You win, though, since you choose not to participate. You don't reduce your vibration to illustrate that you're not acting better, to explain yourself, or to reassure them that you're not changing. As you continue to climb, you allow them to sit in their own discomfort. It's a struggle you win by keeping rising, not one you fight with words. Allow them to battle their personal issues. Your truth, your development, and your tranquility are the only things you owe anyone, and you have a mission to complete. Seventh, the biggest betrayal to those who relied on your vulnerability is that you are no longer reachable. The individuals who profited from your lack of boundaries will accuse you of being selfish the minute you establish them. This isn't because you did anything wrong, but rather because they no longer have access to the version of you that was simpler to control, drain, or manipulate. What they obtained from you was more important to them than you were. And they feel deceived now that the previous iteration of you is no longer there. You never really had these individuals on your side. They were eating you up instead of helping you. The version of you that always said yes, put up with their inconsistencies, and supported them even at the expense of yourself was the one they adored. However, they feel entitled to an explanation now that you've outgrown it. They want to know why you're picking you for once, why you've stopped overcommitting, and why you're not returning their calls. The fact is that they lost access because they were only there to support the weaker version of you, not because you shut them off. They were only interested in how much of yourself you were prepared to give up for their comfort, never in your personal development. And they interpreted your decision to choose yourself as an assault. When you begin to safeguard your energy, observe their response. Some will try to gaslight you by saying things like, "I guess you're too good for us now. You've changed," or "I was always there for you, and this is how you treat me." However, the truth is that they were only there for you when you were available. Their actual sentiments are emerging now that you're not. Allow them to be angry. Let them speak. Just because someone was accustomed to your previous behaviors doesn't mean they had unrestricted access to you. The individuals who genuinely care for you will see that you need boundaries in order to be elevated. The ones that don't, only the aspects of you that were simple to exploit were their focus. Eighth, isolation is necessary for your achievement. The incorrect vibe might taint your manifestation. Success is about what you leave behind as much as what you get. Not everyone can be there when you're manifesting something big, because the incorrect energy can ruin what you've created before it's even completely realized. That's the reason you felt alone. Because of this, relationships have been changing, people have been leaving, and you've been yearning for isolation more than ever. It's spiritual protection, not loneliness. Not everyone has the energy you need to go where you're going. If you're not cautious, the energy of others who operate with doubt, fear, envy, or small-mindedness might affect you. Creating the ideal setting for your desired outcome is just as important as attracting it. No matter how promising a seed is, it will not grow if it is put in poisonous soil. Your blessings are no different. Isolation is therefore required. The universe is ensuring that the proper energy surrounds your manifestation when it materializes. Energy that encourages, supports, and doesn't harbor a secret animosity toward it. Because it helps them feel better, some individuals only want to be around while you're having difficulties. Others can't handle you reaching your full potential, but they love you in your incomplete form. Having them around would have hindered your progress, distracted you, and caused you to doubt yourself at the most inconvenient moment. You're finally free from the things that would have ruined your success, which is why it's happening now. Distractions have been eliminated during this season of refining, leaving only the necessities. Although you may feel isolated, you are in the most holy and safe stage of your trip. The future is too precious to be ruined. You've been drawn away from particular individuals, locations, and even past incarnations of yourself because of this. This seclusion serves as preparation rather than punishment. You'll be glad you kept the incorrect energy away from the blessing when it comes. Number 9. Forgiveness is not a free pass to return. The apology will be too late. The same individuals who disregarded, questioned, or even betrayed you will eventually remember your number. They will reappear in your communications as though nothing had occurred. Some will apologize, however grudgingly. People will act as though they have always supported you. The most blatant of them, too? They will attempt to persuade you that you were misinformed, that everything was a huge error, and that they had no malicious intent. However, it will be too late by the time they arrive. Although forgiveness has great power, it is not a free ticket to reintegrate into your life. When they treated you like a throwaway object, watched you struggle, or secretly wished you failed so they wouldn't have to face their own lack of development, some individuals lost the privilege of access. Now that your success is indisputable, they want to pretend they never left, even if they didn't stand by you when it mattered most. In actuality, they didn't think you would go this far. They wouldn't have disassociated themselves, made fun of your aspirations, or doubted your abilities if they had. They saw you combat by yourself. They listened to your doubts, but rather than offering you encouragement, they either remained silent or fueled them. They want back in now that they've seen the fruits of your tenacity, not because they genuinely appreciate you, but rather because they recognize the worth in what you've accomplished. The difference between who you were and who you are today, however, is that you no longer feel the need to be accepted. You no longer need the approval of individuals who didn't think you were valuable in the first place. Therefore, realize that you can forgive without forgetting when the apologies come, which they will. Resentment can be let go without reopening doors. When they questioned you, some individuals made their decision. Now, it's your turn to decide whether to go on without them. 10th, you just stopped shrinking to fit in with their comfort zone. You're not conceited. They say things like, "You're different," "You're acting brand new," and "You think you're better than us." But in reality, they're saying, "You stopped making yourself small so I could feel big." You spent years lowering your light to make others feel comfortable. These accusations start the moment you start standing fully in your power, because you secretly knew that if you reached your full potential, it would set off others who weren't ready to change. You minimized your knowledge, ambition, and goals, and you put up with it for a time. You made yourself more approachable, likable, and less intimidating, not because you couldn't do more, but rather because you didn't want to alienate others. Then, however, something changed. You've had enough of being little. You came to the realization that you were betraying your own destiny by reducing yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You halted then. You ceased expressing regret for your accomplishments. In order to keep others from feeling uneasy, you stopped wetting yourself down. to fit in with others who were happy with less. You stopped acting as though you didn't desire more from life. The people who profited from your self-doubt are now uncomfortable, not because of anything you did to them, but rather because your development highlights their immobility. They could have gone up with you. Your accomplishment could have served as motivation for others. As though your progress was an assault on their mediocrity, they instead took offense at your change. In actuality, you're just done acting little. You're not conceited. And because it pushes individuals to face their own decisions, it causes discomfort for some people. They preferred the version of you that required their approval, that questioned yourself, and that minimized your talents. However, you are no longer that person. Let them label you conceited then. Permit them to tease you about your transformation. If they are offended by growth, it is their responsibility. To make other people feel comfortable, you weren't supposed to live at half your potential. Continue to shine, keep growing, and let them handle their own difficulties. 11th, your energy costs a lot, and not everyone can afford it these days. Some individuals can't cope with your energy being a free-for-all. They had become accustomed to having unrestricted access to your time, knowledge, and emotional work without ever expecting anything in return. Even when you had nothing left to give, you used to give freely to others. In the past, you were always ready to listen, mend, assist, and provide. Until you discovered that the majority of those individuals weren't investing in you in the same manner that you were investing in them, it seemed normal for a time. The cost of your presence has increased as a result of your leveling up. Not because you're conceited or challenging, but rather because you've put in the necessary effort on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level. You have become wise by hardship, clear through suffering, and self-assured through experience. These days, your energy is a luxury commodity that not everyone can afford. Some people will be upset about this change, not because they thought highly of you, but rather because they thought highly of the previous iteration of you who didn't recognize your value. They miss the person who allowed them to take without repercussions, who gave without bounds, and who put up with inconsistent behavior. They feel betrayed now because you're demanding alignment, reciprocity, and effort. Some folks will start to disappear and claim that you've changed or that you're acting differently. They expected lifetime VIP access to your energy without ever having to earn it. But in reality, they're saying, "You're no longer accessible at the discount rate I once had." And they're not sure how to deal with the doors closing now. Let them feel angry. Let them speak. Instead of dragging you back down to their frequency, the individuals who were destined for this version of you will match yours. Not everyone should have a front row seat to your life simply because they were there once. Your energy is precious. Their prior access was a privilege rather than a right. Additionally, the cost has increased. Number 12. The road is more lonely the higher your calling. Your trip was never intended for the general public to understand. Though they are unaware of the cost, they like the concept of grandeur. They see your triumph, your self-assurance, and your change. But they were not present for the struggles you waged in private. They have no idea how much it cost you to come here. Because it wasn't intended for them to comprehend, the majority of people will never comprehend your path. Your vision was not provided to them. Your teachings weren't given to them. Your hardships didn't have to be endured by them. They doubt you, question you, or even harbor resentment toward you because they are unable to understand the road you have been taking, not because you are mistaken. Because no one else could see what you saw, there were times when you had to endure suffering in quiet, and times when you had to ask yourself questions. To become who you are now, you gave up comfort, connections, and even certain aspects of your former self. And you were being polished alone, while others were busy looking for approval. In actuality, you were never destined for widespread acceptance. You were not intended to blend in. You weren't supposed to be simple. Isolation, rejection, and disappointments were necessary on your path, not as punishment, but as training. Your trip would not be divine if everyone could understand it. Rather, it would be commonplace. When no one else believed in you, you would be labeled insane by others. Because they are unaware of the extent of your sacrifice, others will evaluate your elevation. However, none of it is important. You were picked to lead, to disrupt cycles, to actualize what others are too scared to assert. You weren't picked to win people over. Let them misinterpret you then. Allow them to have doubts. The goal of your path is to fully embrace who you were always intended to be, not to be accepted. And those that genuinely share your mission, they will identify you without any more explanation. 13. Those who questioned you will attempt to change the course of history. It's strange how success can change people's recollections. When you succeed, the very people who mocked your aspirations, disregarded your hardships, or even attempted to undermine you will suddenly recall things differently. They will pretend to have been on your side the entire time. They will easily forget the doubts, the side remarks, and the ways they attempted to minimize you. They will tell others, "I always knew they had it in them." Observe how fast they change. Those who formerly advised you to be realistic will now boast that they knew you before you rose to prominence. The people who disregarded your goals will now pretend to have been there for you the entire time. Some will even attempt to portray themselves as a pivotal figure in your success story, in the hopes of securing a role in your future by rewriting history. The reality is, though, that they had doubts about you because they didn't recognize your potential until it was evident. They did not have a vision. They did not believe. They were onlookers, observing from the sidelines, anticipating your failure. And now that you've proven yourself and you didn't, they want to change history to suit their own interests. The irony? You wouldn't be where you are now if you had paid attention to them and taken in their skepticism. They didn't believe in you until your outcomes made them take notice. Even today, their abrupt change of heart isn't because of you, but rather because they're afraid of falling behind. They don't want to acknowledge that they were mistaken. They will therefore act as though they were always on your side rather than offering an apology or owning up to their previous behavior. Let them speak. If it helps them sleep at night, let them rewrite history in their imaginations. You are aware of the reality. You are aware of who was present, who had faith, and who didn't. And the only individuals you should carry with you into the next phase of your life are those who have always believed in your brilliance without any evidence. Number 14. You terrify them because you are the evidence that the unthinkable is doable. There is nothing more frightening to individuals than indisputable evidence that the boundaries they have set for themselves were never true. And you are a perfect example of that. Every justification they've ever offered is directly challenged by your achievement, your metamorphosis, and your capacity to actualize what once seemed impossible. People enjoy thinking that the system is biased, that only a few people are capable of greatness, and that success depends on connections, good fortune, or unfavorable conditions. Persuading oneself that something greater was never possible makes it simpler to accept mediocrity. However, then you appeared, someone they recognized from their world and without any particular benefits. You made it, though. They are no longer able to conceal themselves behind their justifications. Many people will be angry with you for proving them incorrect, rather than being motivated by your path. Their question will be, "Why wasn't it me?" rather than, "How did they do it?" They will analyze your success, searching for weaknesses and persuading themselves that you had an unfair edge. They won't have to confront the fact that the only thing preventing them was themselves if they can categorize you as fortunate, privileged, or even unworthy. Not because you did anything wrong, but because being around you serves as a painful reminder of what they could have been if they had the same amount of self-control, faith, and fortitude. Some people will turn away. Others will attempt to discredit you in an effort to re-establish their comfort level. What you must understand, though, is that your success cannot be disputed. To cheer people up, you don't have to give them an explanation, an apology, or a diluted version of yourself. Continue to rise. Continue to shine. Furthermore, allow them to struggle with their own discomfort. After all, you are live evidence that the impossible is achievable. And it is the scariest reality of all for those who are still confined by their own self-imposed boundaries. It's too late to turn back now. You've outgrown the constraints, uncertainties, and antiquated theories that previously imprisoned you. You have entered a new world in which you are not shrinking, waiting for approval, or having to justify your development to others who are determined to misunderstand you. You're here. The unavoidable reality that not everyone can accompany you also arrives with that arrival. Some individuals were not supposed to be elevated. They were simply supposed to be a part of your foundation. Some connections were never intended to support your achievement. Additionally, some individuals will be angry with you not because you have harmed them, but rather because your presence compels them to face all of the things they have been avoiding. Allow them to feel uneasy. Let them speak. Growth is beautiful because it shows you who was there to walk with you and who was there only to take advantage of you. You no longer have unrestricted energy. There is no longer a discount for your presence. What about your success? It is no longer dependent on outside approval. They want to re-enter after doubting you. They try to change history after dismissing you. They thought you would remain tiny, and now your growth is frightening them. The truth is that you don't owe anyone a backstage ticket to your fate. Others who were there for you from the start will join you in celebrating, while others who weren't will have to watch from afar. The general public was never intended to comprehend this voyage. It was intended for you, for those who dared to have faith, who wouldn't settle, and who welcomed the discomfort that comes with change. You are now a live example that everything is possible. So, move forth without apology. Acceptance is not something that the chosen ones plead for. They don't request authorization. They get up. Make sure to remain in touch if this message struck a chord with you. If you experienced that change, that affirmation, or that indisputable reality. To ensure you don't miss any more revelations that are relevant to your trip, subscribe to the channel. To communicate to the universe that you are in alignment with this energy, use the like button. Above all, please leave a remark below. Let's discuss it. Have you had this experience? Have you been duped by anyone? Let's create a community in which the selected individuals are familiar with one another. Additionally, remember to forward this video to someone who should see it. Everybody has doubts about their development, feels lonely, and wonders why their status is causing them to lose connections. Verify for them what they already know in their hearts. This path is worthwhile, even though it is not for the weak. Continue to walk in your power. Stay focused and maintain your elevation. This is your moment. May you be blessed.